Hello, everybody, and welcome to my 5-star review of Manifest Destiny. I hope in this unit you gained a little bit more insight into how the United States put together the jigsaw puzzle that it is and became the United States that we know it today. So we all know that history repeats itself. Well, Mr. Stern's going to repeat himself, which I guess is appropriate since he's a history teacher. But to give you a little bit of review of Manifest Destiny and the different territories that the United States was able to acquire. Pretty amazing to think that the United States started out like this, and in a matter of only a little bit over 50 years, went to this pretty quick. And then, of course, a little bit later, you'll learn about this next year, we did that Alaska and Hawaii. But for the most part, America expanded very quickly. Okay, so quick review of, let's start with the Louisiana Purchase. Don't forget, this was President Thomas Jefferson wanting to purchase at first New Orleans, but then eventually all the territory of Louisiana from France, and specifically from Napoleon, who needed money in order to fight a war. So he gave us a good deal, or a good deal at the time, $15 million for all that land. Doubled the size of the United States. Wow. So we needed to explore it. So of course we sent Lewis and Clark, and they met up with Sacagawea, and they mapped the Louisiana territory. Now we'll throw in a question right here, and I'll do this throughout the video, so feel free to pause it now and then answer this question in the Schoology quiz under the video. So like I said, feel free to pause. All right, next let's move on down to Florida. I actually just read an article today that they opened up parts of Disney World. But anyway, United States had some troubles with Florida. Slaves would run away and go down there to hide out, so the southern plantation owners didn't like that. You also had some Seminole Native Americans who were raiding some of the outposts in Georgia and then going back into Florida. So the United States had a Florida problem. So President Monroe sent Andrew Jackson down to Florida to stop the raids and hopefully end the runaway slaves. But Andrew Jackson had another idea. He was going to invade Florida and take it over. And he did, quite quickly, even though President Monroe said do not do that. So eventually, after some drama, President Monroe told Spain either govern Florida well or get out. And Spain decided to get out, and America said, well, we'll pay off $5 million of your debt, Spain, if you give us Florida. And that was the deal. And that's how we got Florida. All right, moving right along. We'll go to Texas. Don't mess with Texas. A lot of different parts to Texas history. We'll hit on some of the highlights here, okay? Remember, first of all, Texas was controlled by Mexico. Americans started to settle in Texas. More and more Americans came in. Remember, not necessarily learning the language or learning the culture. All right, and eventually, Texas fought a war for independence against Mexico. After a big defeat at the Alamo, they were able to eventually win their independence and become an independent state, and eventually become annexed, there's a good vocab word, annexed by the United States and became a U.S. state in 1845. So President Polk was the one who was president when we annexed Texas, but he was just getting started because now he moved on to Oregon. Oregon, who, if you remember, was once controlled by the United States and Great Britain. And we talked a little bit about the Oregon Trail and all of the things that happened along the way out to Oregon. But eventually, in 1846, the United States and Great Britain agreed to chop it in half. All right, the United States got the southern part, and the northern part went to Great Britain and eventually became a part of Canada. But that's the quick story of how we got Oregon. And believe it or not, Polk was still not done. Now that Texas was a part of the United States, Mexico was not happy with the United States. And there was a border dispute over where the border was between the United States and Mexico. And eventually, shots were fired and war began between the United States and Mexico. And after a somewhat lengthy war, the United States was able to actually capture Mexico City and defeat Mexico, and as a result received a huge portion of land known as the Mexican Cession that covers the southwest portion of the United States, and the treaty for that was the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And finally, last but certainly not least, is the Gadsden Purchase. Remember the Gadsden Purchase from the Gadsden Purchase jokes. Anyway, the United States was trying to build a railroad from the eastern part of the U.S. to the western, and most of the land in the Mexican Cession was very rocky, a part of the Rocky Mountains, so they needed to purchase some flat land, and that was the Mexican Cession, a smaller portion of land in between the Mexican Cession and Mexico, and the United States purchased that in 1853 for $10 million. Okay, so that's the very quick review. Certainly you have work from each of those acquisitions that you can look back on to review. Today we'd like you to do a little bit of a study guide, so use this video to help you out. Also use all the work that you have done so far, take some time, organize it, go back and look at it. Then on Monday you will have an open note, yes I did say open note test. So the more organized you are, the better prepared you will be for the test. Use the study guide, use what we've done so far, all right, to help you out and to review. So good luck. If you have any questions, Zoom or email me or Mr. Reef, and have a great day, everybody.